One Warrior Cat Nerd here, and as you see, I adjusted the camera a little bit so you can actually see the whole book. But now we're going on to chapter 1 in Into the Wild. And thank you for all the views I got in the last video. Already, 14 minutes in, I got 3 views. It doesn't seem like much to most people, but it really means a lot to me and my subscribers. And it was something with an art, I'm sorry. But like art crafts. I think that was one of the first people who subscribed to me, and I want to say thank you so much. And for all your support I have so far. I may be a small growing channel, but I'm not one to complain about I need these subscribers, and I'll do fun things for you. And if you want me to do different things, just comment down below and say, hey, can you try to check this out or something, and I'll check it out. Thank you for everyone, and let's get into chapter 1. Okay, so chapter 1. I'm trying to find it. Okay. It was very dark. Rusty could sense something was near. The young tomcat's eyes opened wide as he scanned the dense undergrowth. This place was familiar, but the strange sense drew him onward. Deeper into the shadows, his stomach growled, reminding him of his hunger. He opened his jaw slightly to let the warm smells of the forest reach the scent glands on the roof of his mouth. Musty odors of leaf mold mingled with the tempting aroma of a small, furry creature. Suddenly, a flash of gray raced past him. Rusty stopped, still listening. It was hiding in the leaves, less than 2 tail lengths away. Rusty knew it was a mouse. He could feel the rapid pulsing of a tiny heart deep within his ear. He swallowed, stifling his rumbling stomach. Soon his hunger would be satisfied. Slowly, he lowered his body into a position, crouching for the attack. He was downwind of the mouse. He knew it was not aware of him. With one final check on his prey position, Rusty pushed back hard on his haunches and sprang, kicking up leaves on the forest floor as he rose. The mouse dived for the corner, heading toward a hole in the ground, but Rusty was already on top of it. He scooped it in the air, looking at the helpless creature with his sharp thorn claws, flinging it up in high arc onto leaf-covered ground. The mouse landed dazed, but alive. It tried to run, but Rusty snatched it up again. He tossed the mouse once more, this time a little farther. The mouse managed to scrabble a few paces before Rusty caught up with it. Suddenly, a noise roared nearby. Rusty looked around it, and as he did so, the mouse was able to pull away from his claws. When Rusty turned back, he saw it dart into the darkness among a tangled roof. Angry, Rusty gave up the hunt. He spun around, his green eyes glaring. Intent on searching on the noise that had cost him his kill, the sound rattled on, becoming more familiar. Rusty blinked his eyes open his eyes. The forest had disappeared. He was inside a hot, airless kitchen, curled in his bed. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting shadows on the smooth, hard floor. The noise had been the rattle of the hard, dried pellets of food as they were dipped into his dish. Rusty had been dreaming. Lifting his head, he rested his chin on the side of his bed, his collar wrapped uncomfortably around his neck. In his dream, he had felt air ruffling the soft fur where the collar usually pinched. Rusty rolled onto his back, savoring the dream for a few moments. He could still smell mouse. It was the third time since full moon he had that dream, and every time a mouse had escaped his grasp, he licked his lips from his bed, with the smell bland of odor from his food. His owners always refilled the dish before they went to bed. The dusty smell chased away the warm sense of his dream, but the hunger rumbled on in his stomach. So Rusty stretched out his limbs and padded across the kitchen floor to his dinner. The food felt dry and tasteless on his tongue. Rusty reluctantly swallowed one more mouthful and then turned away from the food dish and pushed his way through the cat flap, hoping that the smell of the garden would bring back the feelings from his dream. Outside, the moon was bright. It was raining lightly. Rusty stalked down the tidy garden, following the starlit gravel path, feeling the stones cold and sharp beneath his paws. He made his dirt beneath a large bush with glossy green leaves and heavy purple flowers. Their sickly, sweet scent clouded the damp air around him as he curled his lip to drive the smell out of his nostrils. Afterward, Rusty settled on top of one of the posts in the fence that marked the limits of his garden. It was one of his favorite spots of his, as he could see right into the neighboring gardens, as well as into the dense green forest floor on the other side of the garden fence. The rain had stopped. Behind him, the close-cropped lawn was bathed in moonlight, but beyond his fence the woods were full of shadows. Rusty stretched his head forward. His skin was warm and dry under his thick coat, but you could feel the weight of raindrops that sparkled on his fur. He heard his owners giving him one last call back from the door. If he went to them now, they would greet him with gentle words and caresses and welcome him to their bed, where he would curl, purring warm in the crack of a bent knee. This time, Rusty ignored his owners' voices and turned his gaze back to the forest. The crisp smell of woods had grown fresher after the rain. Suddenly, the fur on his spine prickled. Was something moving out there? Was something watching him? Rusty stared ahead, but it was impossible to see or smell anything in the dark, tree-scented air. He lifted his chin boldly, stood up, and stretched one paw, gripping each corner of the fence post, as he straightened his legs and arched his back. He closed his eyes and breathed in the smell of the woods once more. It seemed to promise him something, tempting him onward into the whispering shadows. Tensing his muscles, he crouched for a moment. Then he leaped lightly down into the rough grass on the other side of the garden fence. As he landed, the villain's collar rang out through the still night air. "Where are you going off to, Rusty?" meowed a familiar voice behind him. Rusty looked up. A young black and white cat was balancing ungracefully on the fence. "Hello, Smudge." "You're not going out into the woods, are you?" Smudge's amber eyes were huge. "Just for a look," Rusty promised, shifting uncomfortably. "You wouldn't get me in there. It's dangerous." Smudge wrinkled his black nose with distance. "Henry said he went into the woods once." The cat lifted his head and gestured his nose over the rows of fences where Henry lived. "That fat old tabby never went That fat old tabby never went into the woods," Rusty scoffed. "He's hardly been beyond his own garden since his trip to the vent. All he wants to do is eat and sleep." "No, really. He caught a robin in there once." Well, if he did, it was before the vet. Now he complains about birds because they disturb his dozing. Well, anyway, Smudge went on, ignoring the scorn in Rusty's mew. Henry told me there are all sorts of dangerous animals out there. Huge wildcats who eat live rabbits for breakfast and sharpen their claws on old bones. I'm only going around for a look, Rusty meowed. I won't stay long. Well, don't say I didn't warn you, purred Smudge. The black and white cat turned and plunged off the fence back into his own garden. Rusty sat down into the course beyond the garden fence. He gave his shoulder a nervous lick and wondered how much of Smudge gossip was true. Suddenly, the movement of a tiny creature caught his eye. He watched it scuttle under some branches. Instinct made him drop into a low crouch. With one slow paw after another, he drew his body forward through the undergrowth. Ears pricked, nostrils flared, eyes unbreathing. As he moved toward the animal, he could see it clearly now, sitting up among the barbed branches, nibbling on a large seed held between its paws. It was a mouse. Rusty rocked his haunches from side to side, preparing to leap. He held his breath in case his belly rang again. Excitement coursed through him, making his heart pound. This was even better than his dreams. Then a sudden noise of cracking twigs and crunching leaves made him jump. His bell jangled tremulously. Treacherously. And the mouse darted away into the thickest of tangle of a bramble bush. Rusty stood very still and looked around. He could see the white tip of a red bushy tail curling through a clump of tall ferns up ahead. He smelled a strong, strange scent, definitely a meat eater, but neither a cat or a dog. Distracted, Rusty forgot about the mouse and watched the red tail curiously. He wanted a better look. All of Rusty's senses strained ahead as he prowled forward. Then he detected another noise. It came from another noise. It came from behind. But where was it? He swiveled his ears backward to hear it better. Paw steps? He wondered, but he kept his gaze fixed on the strange red fur ahead and continued to creep onward. It was only when the faint rustling behind him became a loud, fast approach. Leaf cackled that Rusty realized that he was in danger. The creature hit him like an explosion, and Rusty was thrown sideways into a clump of nettles. Twisting and yelling, he tried to throw off the attacker that had fastened itself to his back. It was gripping him with incredibly sharp claws. Rusty could feel spiked teeth prickling at his neck. He writhed and squirmed from whisker to tail, but he couldn't free himself. For a second he felt helpless, then froze. Thinking fast, he flipped over onto his back. He knew instinctively how dangerous it was to expose his soft belly, but it was his only chance. He was lucky the ploy seemed to work. He heard a beneath him as the breath was knocked out of his attacker, thrashing fiercely. Rusty managed to wriggle free. Without looking back, he squinted towards his home. Behind him, a rush of paw steps told Rusty that his attacker was giving chase. Even through the pain from his scratches stung beneath his fur, Rusty decided he would rather turn and fight than let himself be jumped on again. He skidded to a stop, spun around, and faced his pursuer. It was another kitten, with a thick coat of shaggy gray fur, strong legs, and a broad face. In a heartbeat, Rusty smelled that it was a tom. and sensed the power in the sturdy shoulders underneath the soft coat. Then the kitten crashed into Rusty at full pelt. Taken by surprise by Rusty's turnabout, it fell back into a dazed heap. The impact knocked the breath out of Rusty, and he staggered back. He quickly found his footing and arched his back, puffing out his orange fur, ready to spring onto the other kitten. But his attacker simply sat up and began licking a forepaw, all signs of aggression gone. Rusty felt strangely disappointed. Every part of him was ready for battle, tensing. "Hi there, kitty pet," meowed the gray Tom cheerily. "You put up quite a fight for a tame kitty." Rusty remained on tiptoe for a second, wondering whether to attack anyway. Then he remembered the strength he had felt in his paws, in this kitten's paws, when he had pinned to the ground. He dropped onto his pad to loosen his muscles and let his spine unbend. "And I'll fight you again if I have to," he growled. "I'm Grandpa, by the way," the gray kitten went on, ignoring Rusty's threat. "I'm training to be a ThunderClan warrior." Rusty remained silent. He didn't understand what Gray What's-It was meowing about, but he sensed the threat had passed. He hid his confusion by leaning down to lick his ruffled chest. "What's a kitty pet like you doing out in these woods? Don't you know it's dangerous?" asked Gray Pop. "If you're the most dangerous thing in the woods has to offer, then I think I can handle it," Rusty bluffed. Gray Paw looked at him for a moment, narrowing his big yellow eyes. "Oh, I'm far from the most dangerous. If I were even half a warrior, I'd have given you an intruder like you some real wounds to think about." Rusty felt a thrill of fear at these ominous words. What did this cat mean by intruder? "Anyway," meowed Gray Paw, using his sharp teeth to tug a clump of grass from between his claws, "I didn't think it was worth hurting you. You're obviously not from one of the other clans." "Other clans?" Rusty echoed, confused. Gray Paw let out an impatient hiss. "You must have heard about the 4 warrior clans that hunt around here. I belong to ThunderClan. The other clans are always trying to steal prey from our territory, especially ShadowClan. They're so fierce, they would have ripped you to shreds. No questions asked." Gray Paw paused to spit angrily and continued. "They come to take prey that is rightfully ours. It's the job of ThunderClan warriors to keep them out of our territory. When I finish my training, I'll be so dangerous, I'll have the other clan shaking in their flea-bitten skins. They won't dare come near us." Rusty narrowed his eyes. This must be one of the wildcats Smudge had warned him about, living rough in the woods, hunting and fighting each other for every last scrap of food. Yet Rusty didn't feel scared. In fact, it was not hard to admire this confident kitten. "So you're not a warrior yet?" he asked. "Why? Did you think I was?" Gray Paw purred proudly. Then he shook his wide, furry head. Sorry, I lost my place. "I won't be a real warrior for ages. I have to go through training first. Kids have to be 6 months old before they even begin their training. Tonight is my first night out as an apprentice." Hold on. Sorry. Okay. "I won't be a real warrior for ages. I have to go through the training first. Kids have to be 6 months old before they even begin their training. Tonight is my first night out as an apprentice." "Why don't you find yourself an owner with a nice cozy house instead? Your life would be much easier," Rusty meowed. "There are plenty of house folk who'd take a kitten like you. All you have to do is sit where they can see you and look hungry for a couple of days, and they'd feed me pellets that look like rabbit droppings and soft slop, Grandpa interrupted. No way! I can't think of anything worse than being a kitty pet. They're nothing but two-legged toys, eating stuff that doesn't look like food, making dirt in a box of gravel, sticking their noses outside only when their two legs allow them. That's no life. Out here, it's wild, and when it's free, we come and go as we please. He finished his speech with a proud spit, then meowed mischievously. Until you tasted a fresh-killed mouse, you haven't lived. Have you tasted mouse? No, Rusty admitted, a little defensively. Not yet. I guess you'll never understand, Grandpa sighed. You weren't born wild. It makes a big difference. You need to be born with warrior blood in your veins, or feel the wind in your whiskers. Kitties born in two-leggedness could never feel the same way. Rusty remembered the way he had felt in his dream. That's not true, he meowed indignantly. I don't know. Grandpa did not seem to reply. He suddenly stiffened with a mid-lick, one paw raised. I just won't cats for my clan. You should go. They won't be pleased to find you hunting in our territory. Rusty looked around, wondering how Grandpa knew any cats were approaching. He couldn't smell anything different on the leaf-scented breeze, but his fur stood on end at the note of urgency in Grandpa's voice. Quick! He hissed Grandpa again. Run! Rusty prepared to spring into the bushes, not knowing which way was safe to jump. He was too late. A voice meowed, firm and menacing. What's going on here? Rusty turned to see a large gray she-cat strolling majestically out from the undergrowth. She was magnificent. White hair streaked along her muzzle, and an ugly scar parted the fur across her shoulders, but her smooth gray coat shone in the moonlight. Blue Star! Beside Rusty, Grandpa crouched down and narrowed his eyes. He crouched even lower when a second cat, a handsome golden tabby, followed the gray cat into the clearing. You shouldn't be so near the two-leg place, Grandpa, growled the golden tabby angrily. I know, Lionheart, I'm sorry. Grandpa looked down at his paws. Rusty copied Grandpa and crouched low to the forest floor, his ears twitching nervously. These cats had an air of strength he had never seen in any of his garden friends. Maybe what Smudge had warned about him was true. Who is this? Asked the she-cat. Rusty flinched as she turned her gaze on him. Her piercing blue eyes made him feel even more vulnerable. Rusty flinched. He's no threat, Grandpa meowed quickly. He's not another clan warrior, just a two-leg pet from beyond our territory. Just a two-leg pet? The words inflamed Rusty, but he held his tongue. The warning in Blue Star's stare told him that she had observed the anger in his eyes, and he looked away. This is Blue Star. She's the leader of my clan. Grandpa hissed to Rusty under his breath. And Lionheart. He's my mentor, which means he's training me to be a warrior. Thank you for the introduction, Grandpa, yelled Lionheart coolly. Blue Star was still staring at Rusty. You fight well for a two-leg pet, she meowed. Rusty and Grandpa exchanged confused glances. How could she know? We have been watching you both, Blue Star went on, as if she had read their thoughts. We wondered how you would deal with an intruder, Grandpa. You attacked him bravely. Grandpa looked pleased at Blue Star's praise. Sit up now, both of you. Blue Star looked at Rusty. You too, kitty pet. He sat up immediately and held Blue Star's gaze evenly as she addressed him. You reacted well to the attack, kitty pet. Grandpa is stronger than you, but you used your wits to defend yourself. And you turned to face him when he chased you. I've not seen a kitty pet like that do it before. Rusty managed to nod his thanks, taken aback by such an unexpected praise. Her next words surprised him even more. I've been wondering how you would perform out here beyond the two-leg place. We patrol this border frequently, so I have seen often see you sitting on your boundary, staring out into the forest. Now at last you have dared to put your paws here. Blue Star stared at Rusty thoughtfully. You do have an unnatural hunting ability. You would have caught that mouse if you hadn't hesitated so long. Really? Rusty stammered. Lionheart spoke now. His deep meow was respectful but instinctive. Blue Star, this is a kitty pet. He should not be hunting in ThunderClan territory. Send him home to his two legs. Rusty pricked at Lionheart's dismissive words. Send me home, he meowed impatiently. Blue Star's words had made him glow with pride, but she had noticed she had been impressed by him. But I've only come here to hunt for a mouse or two. I'm sure there's plenty to go around. Blue Star had turned her head to acknowledge Lionheart's words. Now her gaze snapped back at Rusty. Her blue eyes were blazing with anger. There's never enough to go around, she spat. If you didn't live such a soft, overfed life, you would know that. Rusty was confused by Blue Star's sudden rage, but one glance at the horrified look on Graypaw's face was enough to tell him that he had spoken too freely. Lionheart stepped to the leader's side. Both warriors loomed over him now. Rusty looked into Blue Star's threatening stare, and his pride Blue Star's threatening stare and his pride dissolved. These were not cozy fireside cats he was dealing with. They were mean, hungry cats who were probably going to finish what Graypaw had started. Sorry for this taking 27 minutes, but Chapter 1 does have a lot. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you later. Go check out Into the Wild. Bye!